Welcome, everyone, to Friday 15 with Master B2B. My name is Brian Beck. I'm here with Andy Hoar for another session of our Friday 15 podcast and LinkedIn Live broadcast. Andy, excited to be here for another great session. Welcome to Friday.
Yeah, it's great. We got a great guest today. Got a great topic today. Can't wait to jump in.
And this one's close to your heart. We're going to be talking about technology selection and research and how it all fits together. So excited about that, Andy. So welcome to Friday 15. And folks, we, of course, as usual, have some breaking news. Andy Hoar, look at this. AI job security amongst tech workers. Did you see this, Andy? Business Insider reported that Google employees are organizing around a new concern, keeping their jobs. What? Alphabet Workers Union, 1,400 members now, 4,500 signatures. They're concerned about layoffs, and they want guaranteed severance standards and to performance quotas. Wow, interesting. What's your take on this, Andy?
Well, I think it's a sign of the times, is it not? I mean, who would have thought 5 years ago that some of the most highly educated people in the most profitable industry in the world, arguably software, would need job security? And so, there's one quote I saw, I got to read. And the guy said, when experienced engineers at one of the world's most profitable companies feel the need to organize around basic job security, something meaningful has shifted in how employee-employer relationships work in tech.
Yeah,
absolutely. But you know what? There's another way to look at this, which is, in sports, people get guaranteed contracts, right?
Right. Yep.
How's this any different? CEOs get guaranteed, severance. If you fire a CEO, it's not a terrible life. It might be embarrassing, but you're going to get like a ton of cash. You'll be good for several years. You could consult, maybe these people are thinking, why can't we get something like that? So take a page out of the playbook of the sports industry, but
I guess, yeah,
we'll see. But it is, the point here is that, that's not an insignificant number of people who are now asking for something that was not even on the table a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I mean, you're not getting guaranteed contracts if you're, the third string kicker's practice dummy,
Well, that's the problem, right?
Right.
But if you're coming out of Stanford and you got a CS degree,
I suppose,
and you've started an AI company and Google wants to hire you, what's wrong with saying, hey, in addition to a signing bonus, I'll tell you what, I want guaranteed severance. That's 100% of my base salary for you.
Yeah.
Think about it. You have to sign NDAs, you sign all sorts of non-compete stuff. It's just part of the negotiating, and they do it in the sports world. So, I mean, if you get injured, you still get paid,
I'm a capitalist, Andy. No issues with negotiating that if you can negotiate it in. But, I don't know. Organized labor. Interesting.
No, but the problem is obviously that they're trying to apply this to everybody, and and everybody isn't the same, right? The guy I just described might be worth a lot of money.
Exactly.
Somebody else, if they're an hourly worker, you can't be guaranteeing severance for somebody who, I hate to say this, but is, mopping the floors in the cafeteria. Yeah. That's not something that these companies are going to go for. But I do find it interesting that, and a little bit rich, that these companies talk about how important these things are until it hits home. And then all of a sudden, they become really capitalistic.
Right, until it hits the bottom line. Well, folks, we got to move into our topic. That's an interesting one, Andy. We'll keep our finger on the pulse there. Today, we're talking about partner selection and the platform selection process. And we talked about this last week. And, part of what we started the conversation on last week, Andy, was the role of research in all this too. And where does it all fit together? What does the process look like? And how are you successful? And as I mentioned, I've done this in my career, platform selection at a major scale, meaning e-commerce platforms, site search tools, things like that, multiple times. And I know you've been in this field for quite a long time, right? I mean, 15 plus years now, Andy. When you were at Forrester, you were writing research about this. But tell us kind of, what does this process look like? We highlighted this last week, and we're going to refresh on it now.
Yeah, so I think the single biggest mistake I see people make is they live in the eternal present. Having done this for, 10, 12, 14 years now, going back to my Forrester days, generally this is the way it goes. We need to replace our platform. I'm like, okay, great. Why?
Right.
Well, there's going to be good reasons, like, it's old, or it's expensive, or it's too heavily customized and we can't scale it going forward. Okay, got it. Okay, so what do you want to put in place? Well, we just want to replace what we have. I'm like, well, yeah, but the world's constantly changing, right? So what you're basically building is for something that's going to be, useful 3 years from now. Well, 3 years ago, ChatGPT launched, right? So if you had developed your platform before ChatGPT, not to suggest that's going to happen every 3 years, but if you had done that, you'd be way off, right? I read something, I heard something the other day about in this book, Atomic Habits, about if you fly your plane from Chicago to New York and it's just 3 degrees off, by the time you get there, you'll end up in Washington, D.C.
Right.
So this is kind of important that you know where you're going.
Right.
And I always say work your way backwards, but and that requires, selecting a partner if you're not going to do it yourself, the platforms. What we're going to talk about today is really interesting, how the game has kind of changed a little bit, but this is a process. And we argued this last week. Research is a part of the process. I use the analogy of going to the doctor. And so, so I have my own research. There's the Combine for mid-market and for enterprise. Forrester just came up with their research. Gartner has their research. And I use the analogy of going to the doctor. I think that, in the past, like when I talk to my parents, they go to the doctor and they believe whatever the doctor tells them. The doctor knows what the doctor knows. I'm like, well, the doctor's one person in one circumstance, might be highly knowledgeable, might not be, right? Why don't you do some research and do some homework so that you come in well-informed? By the same token, you can't go into the doctor and say, hey, Mr. Doctor, I consulted Dr. Claude or Dr. Google, and they told me this. You want the doctor's help. So it's a combination of the two.
Right.
But I think the roles have shifted a little bit. Used to be more like going to the doctor and you just believe whatever you're told. Now it's a combination of the two, where I think research sets context around it and helps you validate what you've already discovered.
Absolutely. And a lot of this too is, and back in my day when I was doing this as an operator, I would rely a lot on the community around me to talk to me about what their experiences were. And we have this forum, Andy, which is a great place to ask for feedback. And we just this week, we had 4 or 5 questions come through about technologies and platforms and implementation partners and things like that, where people are really trying to gather information. So research plays a part of it, but then the forum, of course, is a great place to gather that feedback directly without any sort of vendors or solution providers in there to influence or change opinions. Right? I mean, you're getting feedback directly from your peers.
Yeah, and there are no solution providers allowed. So it's all practitioners, and so they can share freely and say, hey, I'm trying out this, I'm thinking about that. What do you think? So what's great today is we wanted to sort of bolster the conversation that we had last week about research with somebody who's actually recently gone through not 1, but 2 of these selection processes, and actually can tell us a little bit about, and by the way, he was, spoiler alert, he was on the list that we just showed, the picture list. Though.
That's right. He was number 3.
Number 3. So why don't we go ahead and bring him in? So
let's introduce our man here, Brennen Volbeda. Brennen, welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do and what the heck PCNA is.
Yeah, so I've led digital experience now at 3 companies. Tecton and JS Products are both hand tool and home improvement manufacturers. So think hammers, wrenches, things like that. So led their digital experience there, both website management, MarTech and commercial technology management, ad spend, Amazon and vendor management like that. And then now I'm at PCNA, a little over 4 years, lead essentially commercial technology strategy at PCNA, managing our websites, our Salesforce environment, ad spend on industry platforms, master data strategy. And PCNA, we're a promotional product supplier. So we're the company that does product decoration. I happen to have my bottle next to me. So we partner with a bunch of retail brands and we put decoration on those products for any company really. And we sell through distributors as well.
So you're the one who's responsible for all of those Yetis and all of those, battery charger things that I have that they get at the
Yes, exactly. Yeah, PCNA is the company that's putting the decoration on those kinds of things.
Swag master.
Yeah,
that's what we'll call you.
Yes.
The swagster.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, so Brennen, tell us about maybe some of your background in this topic. I mean, we talked about, what we're talking about here is from a practitioner's perspective.
Yep.
What is the role of research, but kind of how do you think about this overall selection process? You've got a lot of experience doing this, and you have some ongoing experience doing this, right? You're doing some selections right now.
Yeah, really in the last 6 to 9 months, we've spent a decent amount of time selecting and picking out platforms, both for a PLM, a PIM, and a new AI website search.
Wow.
So kind of how we go down this road is using analyst reports for at least initial review of what's out there and what's available. Then we're getting down to our requirements. We know what we're looking for in the particular platforms. We know what we want to try to accomplish from a capabilities perspective. Then it's going and doing some demos and calls with those particular platforms and really seeing, all right, from the initial demo, can they do what we need? From there, we've worked with partners like Intara, getting feedback from them, getting feedback from other peers in the industry as well on what platforms they use or suggestions that they have. And then for like our PLM selection, especially, we have a lot of retail brand partners, so over 80 retail brand partners. A lot of about 6 or 7 of our retail brands used the platform that we selected. So we got at the end a lot of really good information from our brand partners on the particular platform that we had picked, and it was really just validating our decisions at that point, and really helped us just affirm the platform selection that we had made.
So in the old days, So in the old days, you would bring people in, they'd do the dog and pony show. You'd have a dinner with them. They'd want to sign you. You make a decision like, we're going to go with vendor A. And then you start the process and you take the chance that this thing may not work out, but you try and risk mitigate all over the place. What what we were talking about off camera, which I thought was fascinating, is that's changed now. Now it's just shortlisting to who's going to do the proof of concepts, right?
Yeah. In both selections, actually, we did and are doing POCs to again validate before making this huge decision. Is this going to work? So we initially had a PIM picked out before some other requirements came into the project, and we have some complexity around our product decoration. It's a lot of information. Could be hundreds and hundreds of lines of information that need to be in a table within a PIM. So we thought it could handle it, did this POC, realized, this is not going to manage it how we thought, and isn't going to probably work for us. So before even being able to sign a contract, and we did a little contract for that POC, but again, before signing the actual contract, it was the risk mitigation there. All right, is this actually going to work? And then now with our AI search platform that we're looking for getting on our website, we've got 2 POCs going at the same time, utilizing the same data. We're going to be just seeing which one works best for the particular search scenarios that we're trying to accomplish.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So building your use cases, understanding how do you build your custom, like when you think about those use cases, are you going to customers and, building out those use cases? And, that's something that I've heard horror stories when companies don't do those sorts of things. Is that something that you guys have done? Kind of go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. We do get some voice of customer opinions on what they would like to see. We want for sure just more natural language search abilities. Yeah. So if someone is saying something like, instead of going about the search on our site and saying tumbler, and then now you got to go and filter down to find a tumbler that's $25 that has 1,000 available and is good for the finance industry. Like, we want to bring that as the search and using natural language, you can, in the search bar, do more something like, hey, I've got a finance event I'm looking for, a group. We need a tumbler between $20 and $30 for 1,000 people.
Right.
And that's the search. You've got multiple context points there. While finance, you've got tumbler, you've got dollar amount, you've got quantity needed. So taking all of those different variables and still having the search give you the right results is really what we're after.
That's a big tumbler order. That's a lot of tumblers.
Yeah, it's a medium-sized tumbler order.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Well, it's your business, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's fascinating. So if you think about, so the research plays a role in kind of, I think what you're saying is assembling kind of your long list of who the suspects might be, right?
Yep.
You also mentioned before we got on the call today that you also use research at different points, including kind of validating what you found out about the in the process of doing your diligence and kicking the tires and things. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Both from partners like Intara, and they connected us with a PLM partner as well. That person was tremendously helpful in validating some of the things that we were thinking.
Yeah.
It used a lot more for validation of what we're finding versus driving the search.
Right. You don't just read the research and pick a platform. Right.
Well, Brian, we were talking about this beforehand too, that one of the things I know that I have to do when I do my Combine analysis, I got to make sure that whatever I'm evaluating and whatever I'm getting references on, that we're all talking about the same platform. Because sometimes it's like, oh, I'm on version 9.1, and then the reference is from version 7.2, which actually, it doesn't include the latest functionality. In fact, in some cases, I would talk to these people and they would complain about it's missing this and missing that. And I'm like, yeah, they implemented that a year ago, didn't they? It's like, oh, I haven't upgraded yet. So that's another area I think where the research, self-serving statement here can be helpful, is that we actually have to make sure that it's the latest version that we're getting both evaluations of and commentary on. But Brennen, tell us a little bit about how you use your network. I'm really curious about this. You said there are people in the network, but what do you do? Just say, hey, we're looking at this. What do you think? Or do you something more structured than that?
Sometimes it's just like an informal conversation at like the Master B2B event. I think some of our search platform discoveries were just like impromptu conversations that I had with someone at a table. Or I have posted in the forum before on platform eval. So it can take a number of forms, either meeting someone at a conference, posting on the forum, reaching out to someone on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I always found that to be quite valuable, Brennan, when I was running eCommerce, is that, having a bench of folks I could go to, also not even folks using the platform, but folks who have potentially evaluated the platform, in the course of their own selection. So absolutely, because you get unvarnished, sort of the real story, right? And that's what's really important as you're making these selections. It's just so important that that you get the right tools in place, because there's time and money at stake here, right? So, and your job too. I mean, gosh, I had one experience early in my career where I picked the wrong platforms, and I fell for the sales pitch, and it cost me my job ultimately. I mean, it was one of the key things that I got canned. This is years ago, right? But it was a serious. I didn't apply diligence the way I should have, and I learned a lot of lessons.
Yeah, and Brian, and I always say, people ask me all the time, like, for advice on these things, and I always say, look, read the important, highly vetted stuff, because there's also a lot of garbage out there too, where it's like research that pretends to be research when it's actually not. I think we've all seen this. They just add the word research to the end of it, and it's actually a vendor site or something.
Exactly.
So that, from trusted sources, but also in this network thing, Brennen, you're going to see these people at events. You're going to see them and hear from them online. And if somebody gives you bad advice, that kind of sticks, right? And so people's got to when they put their reputation on the line, it's kind of amazing how much better the advice is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, Brennen. Well, we're up on time here. I appreciate you contributing to our community here. Your involvement with us. You've been a wonderful an important member of our community. So thank you.
Thank you guys.
And thanks for being a part of our series today. So we will see you at an event, one of our events soon. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah.
All right. So Andy, just a couple quick announcements. That was really great. Thank you to Brennen. He was fantastic and a real rock star in his own right. So a couple quick announcements for our community here. The Master B2B Nexus program is available. It's your personal digital lifeline for getting quick answers, finding resources, and accessing really expertise. Folks like Brennen are involved in our Nexus program and are available to help you get opinions on platforms and other things. Really, we find the right people to help answer your questions quickly. It is a paid service for practitioners, so go to masterb2b.com and learn more. And finally, I want to remind everyone that our Friday 15 is available via podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Please give us a rating and review if you would, only if positive. And that's a wrap for our content. Andy, any final thoughts before we wrap up our Friday 15 this week?
Yeah, I was joking with Jared, who was sitting in your chair a couple weeks ago.
That's right.
We seem to have like every end of day seems to be happening here in Evanston. We had an earthquake. We had, pestilence. Well, we had flooding this week. So
sweet.
It's very severe, but I'm hoping that next week it's the first not end of days week.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, biblical times coming to Chicago. Excellent. Well, folks, thanks again for joining. We'll see you to our next Friday 15 next week. Join us, please. Take care.